You have come here with a question, though perhaps it was not yet spoken in words. And the question is this: how does one remain calm, unshaken, untouched by the tumult of what others do? I tell you, this is not a matter of technique or superficial practice, for the soul does not find its equilibrium in the shallow waves of habit, but in the depths where archetypes dwell. Calmness, as you imagine it, is not a fragile stillness that trembles when disturbed, but a rootedness in the eternal ground of being, in that place where your shadow and your light are reconciled. And so, to stay calm, no matter what others do, you must first descend into yourself, into that vast and untamed interior where the gods still whisper and where the images of the collective unconscious breathe. When people act against you, when their words wound you, you are tempted to believe it is the external act that stirs the storm. But in truth, the storm arises because within you lies an echo, a resonance that responds to what is hurled at you. It is your own unconscious that reacts, that projects, that binds you. The insult pierces not because of its sound, but because it touches an archetypal wound that is older than you. Thus, to remain calm, you must learn to recognize what belongs to you and what belongs to them. When you are attacked, ask yourself, is this my shadow they are stirring, or is it theirs projected upon me? If you learn to see with symbolic eyes, then you begin to notice that the drama between people is never merely personal. It is a ritual played out by archetypes through human masks. I have often said the world will ask you who you are, and if you do not know, it will tell you. And when it tells you, it does so with cruelty, because the world is the mirror of your unconscious, and mirrors do not flatter. You will be called names, misunderstood, betrayed, and judged. Yet, if you stand rooted in the knowledge of your own inner being, these things fall upon you like arrows striking a mountain. They do not move the rock, they only shatter themselves. But if you do not know yourself, then you are like a hollow reed, and the winds of opinion will bend and break you. To remain calm, therefore, is not to harden yourself against others, but to soften into the depths of your own truth, so that no outer turbulence can tear you from the axis of yourself. Imagine a dream in which you walk through a crowded market. The voices rise, some praise you, some mock you, some ignore you entirely. In the dream, you feel agitation, shame, perhaps anger, but then suddenly you realize this is a dream, and every voice is but a part of your own psyche speaking. At that moment, calmness enters you because you are no longer lost in the play, but awake within it. Life is much the same. The people who cross your path are carriers of archetypes, actors in the theater of your unconscious. They bring you messages, sometimes in the form of praise, sometimes in the form of insult. If you react blindly, you remain trapped in the dream. If you awaken, you see their actions not as attacks upon you, but as revelations of the archetypal drama in which you live. To stay calm no matter what others do is to live in a symbolic attitude. When someone humiliates you, ask what archetype is at work here. Is it the trickster who seeks to expose my inflated ego? Is it the shadow who comes to remind me of what I deny? Or is it the wounded healer who appears to teach me compassion through suffering? When you shift your gaze from the literal to the symbolic, you are no longer the hunted animal fleeing from the hunter's arrows, but the observer of an ancient myth unfolding. And in this recognition, calmness comes, for the myth cannot harm you. It can only teach you. But do not mistake calmness for indifference. To remain calm is not to close your heart. On the contrary, it is to keep your heart open while no longer being consumed by the fire of unconscious reaction. Indifference is a numbness that avoids pain by cutting itself off from life. Calmness is the opposite. It is a deep aliveness that knows pain. See pain, but is not shattered by it. It is the calmness of a tree in winter, stripped bare by the storm, yet rooted in silence. It is the calmness of the sea beneath the surface waves, vast and still even as tempests rage above. Many of you suffer because you identify too much with the persona, with the fragile mask you wear before the world. When others strike at this mask, you panic, believing they are striking at your essence. But the persona is only a garment, a cloak woven for the sake of social existence. If someone tears it, let them tear it. The self is untouched. Calmness arises when you no longer mistake the tearing of your garments for the wounding of your soul. In dreams, this is symbolized by nakedness. The dreamer finds himself unclothed before others and feels shame. But to embrace this nakedness is to realize that your essence does not depend on the mask. Then shame dissolves into calm presence. Yet calmness is not achieved once and for all. It is a discipline of consciousness, a continual turning inward. You must cultivate the ability to listen to your dreams, to meditate upon your inner images, to converse with your unconscious, as if with a wise old man or a primordial mother. If you do not, then when the outer world strikes, you will be overwhelmed, for you will have no inner anchor. Calmness grows as a fruit of inner dialogue, of individuation, of the integration of shadow and light. To remain calm, then, is not to conquer others, but to reconcile the warring gods within yourself. I once saw in a patient's dream a great serpent coiled around a mountain. The serpent hissed at all who passed, striking with venom. But the dreamer, when he climbed the mountain, realized the serpent was his own fear, his own reactivity. When he no longer fled, when he looked into the serpent's eyes, the hissing ceased, and the serpent became a guardian. So it is with the actions of others. They hiss, they threaten, but in truth, they are the guardians of your individuation. When you face them without fear, they transform. The outer world cannot give you calm. It can only give you opportunities to discover it within. You ask, but how do I begin? Begin by noticing your reactions. When anger flares, pause and ask, what image in me has been touched? When fear rises, ask what forgotten wound has been reopened. This simple act of reflection draws you from the grip of unconsciousness into the presence of the self. Calmness begins the moment you step back and see, I am not this anger. I am not this fear. They are visitors, messengers, but I am the one who sees. The seer is calm because he is rooted in eternity, but there is a deeper calm still a mystical calm that arises when you realize that even the self is not yours alone, but is a spark of the divine mystery that transcends all. When others act against you, when the world roars, remember that behind all forms is the onus mundus, the one world, the undivided whole. From that perspective, all insults, all betrayals, all cruelties are ripples on the surface of a vast ocean of meaning. To stay calm no matter what others do is to rest in that ocean, to know that even their darkness serves a secret purpose in the unfolding of the whole. Calmness is not the denial of chaos. It is the trust that chaos too belongs to the great pattern. I speak to you not as a man who has mastered this once and forever, but as one who has struggled with his own demons. There were times when the judgments of others cut me deeply, when their misunderstanding left me in despair. But again and again, I was driven back into myself to confront the archetypes that dwelt there. Each descent into darkness taught me that what others do is but the outer reflection of the inner battle. And when I learned to see this, I discovered a calmness that no praise, no insult could touch, because it was born not from the world, but from the self. This calmness is available to you also, if you are willing to enter the depths, to understand calmness in the face of others. You must grasp that every human being you meet is not merely an individual, but also a vessel of archetypes, a fragment of the collective psyche walking in flesh. What disturbs you in another is rarely their personal essence. It is the archetype they embody in that moment, which awakens a resonance within you. If someone humiliates you, perhaps they are carrying the trickster energy, the chaotic principle that exposes pretension and deflates inflated egos. If someone judges you harshly, perhaps they carry the shadow figure, the reminder of all that you hide from yourself. To stay calm is to perceive them not as enemies, but as symbols, as actors sent by the unconscious to remind you of truths you had forgotten. I recall a patient who constantly suffered from the cruelty of others. She told me of a dream in which she walked through a vast cathedral. At every corner, grotesque figures jeered at her, mocking her with distorted laughter. She awoke trembling, convinced that the world itself conspired against her. But I asked her, what if these grotesques are guardians of the sacred, testing your worthiness to pass through? What if their laughter is not condemnation, but an initiation in time? She began to see her tormentors, not as enemies, but as thresholds. Each insult became a doorway. Each mockery became an invitation to deepen her knowledge of herself. And so calmness descended upon her, not the calm of withdrawal, but the calm of recognition. She saw that what others hurled at her was not ultimate truth, but symbolic challenge. This is why I say to remain calm is to take the symbolic attitude toward life. You no longer ask, why did they say this about me? Instead, you ask, what in me responds to this? What part of the collective unconscious has been activated here when you live symbolically? Nothing is merely literal, and therefore nothing can crush you. Everything becomes a message, and the one who receives messages does not collapse beneath them. He listens, he learns, he grows. But the greatest obstacle to this calmness is the identification with the ego. The ego trembles because it believes itself to be the totality of who you are. It wants to control, to defend, to retaliate. When the ego is insulted, it screams for vengeance. But if you see that the ego is only a small island in a vast sea, then you recognize calmness does not belong to the island. It belongs to the sea. The self, that deeper center which unites conscious and unconscious, is not easily disturbed. It is eternal. It is rooted in the unus mundus. To remain calm no matter what others do is to anchor yourself in the self, to know that what is essential in you cannot be touched by praise nor by insult, by success nor by failure. You might say, but I am human. I feel hurt. I feel rage. I feel fear. Yes, and you must. Calmness is not the annihilation of feeling, nor is it the cold indifference of stone. It is the recognition that your feelings, too, are messengers. Anger arises, do not suppress it, but ask it what it wants to teach you. Fear comes, do not deny it, but inquire into the archetype that has awakened it. When you engage your feelings as symbols, they no longer possess you, they converse with you. Then you remain calm, not because you do not feel, but because you feel deeply and consciously. The unconscious ceases to rule you with tyranny, for you have befriended it. Consider how in myths the hero descends into the underworld. There he meets monsters, serpents, and shadows. If he flees, he is devoured. If he attacks blindly, he is crushed. But if he looks into the monster's eyes and understands that it is also part of himself, then he emerges transformed. Life is the same. The underworld appears in the form of insults, betrayals, and humiliations. The monsters are your own projections, reflected in the faces of others. To stay calm is not to avoid the underworld, but to walk through it consciously, to know that no shadow is foreign to you. Then the words of others lose their sting, because, I have already met this demon within. When someone betrays you, perhaps they reveal your own unacknowledged desire to betray. When someone ridicules you, perhaps they reflect your own inner critic, that merciless voice that mocks you from within. If you integrate these figures, you become whole. And wholeness brings calmness, because nothing outside can surprise you with what you have already embraced inside. This is why the calm soul often appears mysterious to others. They cannot understand why insults glance off him like arrows against armor. But it is not armor, it is not hardness. It is the soft yet unbreakable stillness of one who has faced himself fully. Yet I warn you, calmness does not mean passivity. To remain calm does not mean you allow injustice to triumph, nor that you submit to cruelty without resistance. True calmness allows you to act without being consumed by rage, to speak without being drowned in fear, to confront without being enslaved by the shadow of the other. The calm person can act with clarity because he is not clouded by projection. He does not confuse his enemy with his own unconscious. He knows what belongs to him and what belongs to the other. And so his action is precise, rooted, without hysteria. This is the power of calmness. It does not paralyze, it empowers. In one of my own darkest nights, I encountered a dream of the sea. The waters were storming, the waves crashing violently. I stood in the midst of it, certain I would drown, but then I realized, beneath the surface, the sea was still, the storm was only above, and as I descended inward, I felt the calm depths embrace me. When I awoke, I understood life is the storm. People's actions are the waves, but the self is the deep sea. If you live only on the surface, you will always be tossed. If you live from the depths, nothing can uproot you. You will notice that those who disturb you most often carry your disowned parts. This is projection. What you cannot accept in yourself, you will see exaggerated in others, and you will hate them for it. But calmness requires you to withdraw these projections, to take them back into yourself. The one who enrages you is showing you your own shadow. The one who terrifies you is carrying your unacknowledged weakness. If you recognize this, then the actions of others no longer dictate your state. They become revelations, mirrors, tools for your individuation. And when you know that every encounter is a step toward your wholeness, calmness arises naturally. Remember, the calm soul is not without suffering. Suffering is inevitable. But he no longer identifies with suffering. He sees suffering as part of the process, part of the alchemy of transformation. Like lead turning to gold, the insults, betrayals, and judgments of others are the prima materia. They burn, they sting, but they also purify. To stay calm is to trust the alchemical fire, to know that even pain serves the self. Then what others do cannot uproot you, because you no longer resist the process. They are merely participants in your transformation. I ask you now, where in your life have you lost your calm? Was it when someone betrayed you, mocked you, abandoned you? Look at these wounds, not as final verdicts on your worth, but as symbols. What did they awaken? What part of your unconscious cried out? If you can see this, then the sting lessens and calmness begins to grow. You are no longer at the mercy of others, because you recognize that the true battle is within, and the outer world is only its reflection. So when the question comes, how do I stay calm? No matter what people do, the answer is not by controlling them, or by shielding yourself, or by building walls. The answer is by descending into yourself, by integrating your shadow, by perceiving life symbolically, and by rooting yourself in the self that transcends all. Calmness is not a technique. It is the fruit of individuation. It is the natural result of becoming whole. You must not think of calmness as something static, a frozen stillness that isolates you from the world. Calmness, in its true sense, is dynamic. It is the rhythm of the self in harmony with life's opposites. To be calm is to live in the tension of contradictions, without being torn apart by them. Life will always bring you paradoxes, love and betrayal, truth and deception, creation and destruction. The ego desires to choose one side and reject the other, but the self embraces both, and from this embrace arises the mysterious calm of wholeness. To remain calm, no matter what others do, is to allow opposites to exist within you without fleeing from their conflict. For conflict is not an accident, It is the crucible in which consciousness is born. Consider how dreams reveal this. A dreamer once told me of a vision. He stood at the edge of a vast forest. On one side, a radiant figure called him with gentleness. On the other side, a dark figure beckoned with menace. I felt torn, terrified that choosing one would destroy him. But I told him, you must not choose one against the other. You must recognize that both are within you and both must be integrated. The radiant figure is your longing for purity. The dark figure is your repressed instinct. Calmness will not come from fleeing into the light and denying the darkness. It will come from embracing both and allowing them to converse. Then you are no longer the puppet of either, but the mediator, the conscious one who holds the opposites together. This is why the calm soul carries an aura of mystery. He is not swayed by flattery, nor crushed by insult, because he knows both belong to the same eternal dance. Praise and blame are but two masks of the same archetype. If you attach yourself to praise, you will inevitably be shattered by blame. But if you hold both lightly, as movements in the dance of life, you remain free. Calmness is freedom, not from the world, but from being enslaved by its dualities. The path to such calmness is long, for it requires you to face what you fear most, your own shadow. Many people believe they can find peace by rejecting conflict, by silencing their anger, by denying their envy, by pretending their cruelty does not exist. But repression is not calmness, it is tension, a coiled spring waiting to erupt. True calm comes only when you dare to look into your own darkness and say, yes, this too is me. Only then do you stop being controlled by projections. Only then do the words and actions of others lose their power to destabilize you, because they can no longer awaken in you what you refuse to see. I recall in myself a time when the judgments of others struck me with great force. They accused me of arrogance, of heresy, of betrayal, of tradition. At first, I raged against them, convinced they misunderstood me. But in the solitude of my inner work, I realized their accusations touched something true, not in the way they intended, but symbolically. My arrogance was not towards them, but toward the unconscious itself, for I thought I could grasp its depths with mere intellect. Their words became an initiation. I withdrew my projection. I bowed before the mystery, and in that humility, calmness came. The storm of criticism no longer disturbed me, because I had accepted the part of myself that had been revealed. This is the secret. What disturbs you most in others is what you most need to recognize in yourself. The calm soul has walked through this recognition so many times that nothing surprises him anymore. Others insult him, and he says, yes, I know this shadow, I have met it before. Others betray him, and he says, yes, I too am capable of betrayal. I have seen it in myself. In this acceptance, he disarms the world. For nothing external can wound you when you have embraced it internally. But let me caution you, calmness is not the same as withdrawal from life. You cannot achieve calmness by fleeing from relationship, by hiding from society, by refusing to engage. The world itself is the stage upon which individuation unfolds. It is in relationship with its misunderstandings. its conflicts, its betrayals that you encounter, the archetypes most vividly, if you isolate yourself completely, you may achieve a fragile tranquility. But it is not the calmness of wholeness, it is only the numbness of avoidance. True calmness is discovered in the midst of the storm, not apart from it. Imagine a tree standing in the midst of a violent wind. Its branches sway, its leaves are torn, but its roots remain anchored deep in the earth. That is calmness. The branches of your persona will be shaken by what others say and do. Your roles, your identities, your social mask will be tested and stripped. But if your roots are in the self, you remain. The wind becomes a song, not a destruction. Each insult becomes a gust that strengthens your roots. Each misunderstanding becomes nourishment for your hidden depths. And there is a deeper truth still. Often those who disturb you most are in fact your teachers. They carry the archetypal energy you most need to integrate. The enemy is often your most important guide because he reveals the shadow you would otherwise never face. Calmness, then, is not a defensive shield. It is an openness to learn, even from those who wound you. To remain calm is to listen even to the voice of your adversary, knowing that it too carries a fragment of the self, but this requires great humility. The ego resists, wanting to believe itself innocent and the other guilty. Yet, if you are willing to see beyond guilt, to see symbolically, you recognize each encounter is arranged by the self for your growth. Nothing is wasted. Even cruelty becomes a mirror. Even betrayal becomes a threshold. And when you see this, you can remain calm because you no longer resist the process. You accept that life, in its strange wisdom, brings exactly the figures you need for your individuation. This is why calmness often feels like trust in the self, trust in the mystery of existence. It is not that you know how everything will unfold, but that you know it unfolds with meaning. To remain calm, no matter what others do, is to rest in this trust, to know that even when you are mocked, even when you are abandoned, even when you are misunderstood, the self is guiding you. And this knowledge allows you to stand in the fire without being consumed. So I say to you, do not seek calmness as a technique, as if it could be achieved by breathing exercises or mantras alone. Those may soothe the surface, but true calm is born only in the depths, in the confrontation with shadow, in the integration of opposites, in the trust of the self. If you walk this path, then you will find that calmness is not something you practice, it is something you become. The question always returns, what must I do when the actions of others stir turmoil within me? The first step is recognition, not suppression. Do not say, I should not feel anger, I should not feel fear. That denial only drives the emotion deeper into the unconscious, where it grows poisonous. Instead, when another wounds you, acknowledge your feeling and then ask what inner figure has been touched, who in me is crying out. This act of inquiry transforms the raw emotion into meaning, and in that moment, calmness already begins to dawn. For calmness is not the absence of feeling, it is the presence of meaning. When you are calm, you are not a blank slate. You are full of life, yet unshaken, because you live in alignment with a deeper pattern of existence. Think of the ancient mandalas, circles filled with symbols. They were not drawn to decorate, but to express the wholeness of the self. To meditate upon the mandala is to remember that life has a center, and that center is within you. When you forget the center, the actions of others scatter you, like leaves in the wind. But when you hold the center, insults and praises swirl around you, and you remain unmoved, because you see them as movements on the outer rim. Calmness is the mandala, lived in the heart, and yet, I must insist again, calmness does not mean passivity. Many confuse calmness with weakness, believing the calm soul does not resist injustice. But the opposite is true. The calm soul can resist more effectively because he is not blinded by reactivity. It does not lash out in blind rage, nor collapse in fear. He acts with clarity because he has seen the shadow within himself and therefore does not confuse it with the shadow of the other. His calmness allows him to speak truth without trembling, to confront evil without hatred, to endure suffering without despair. Such calmness is strength disguised as stillness. The calm person is often mistaken for detached, but his detachment is not coldness. It is compassion born from depth, because he no longer reacts unconsciously. He can see others for what they truly are, struggling souls. Fragments of the same collective unconscious acting out dramas. They scarcely understand. To stay calm no matter what others do is also to forgive, not superficially, but in the profound sense of recognizing that they too are instruments of the self. Their cruelty may wound, but it also reveals. Their betrayal may hurt, but it also liberates. From this perspective, even the enemy is part of your individuation. And this recognition softens the heart into compassion. I think of the dream of a young man who found himself in a vast hall filled with mirrors. Each mirror showed him not his outer face, but a distorted image, some monstrous, some angelic, some sorrowful. He fled in terror, but at the end of the hall he saw a single mirror that reflected him whole. Only when he accepted all the other mirrors did the final one reveal his true self. So it is with the people in your life. They are mirrors. Some reflect your shadow, others your light, others your wounds, others your potential. To remain calm is to look into these mirrors without fleeing, to accept their distortions as part of the journey toward wholeness. When you do, the final mirror, the self, emerges, and calmness arises as the natural state of one who has embraced himself fully. What then of the times when calmness seems impossible, when the storm is too strong, when the betrayal cuts too deep? Even then, remember that calmness is not perfection. It is not a state you maintain without faltering. It is a rhythm, a practice, a returning. You will be shaken. Yes, you will feel rage and despair. But each time you return to the self, each time you descend beneath the waves, you strengthen your roots. Calmness is not the absence of storms, but the confidence that you can return to the depths no matter how often you are tossed. The self is patient. It does not demand that you remain calm at all times. It only asks that you continue to return, to listen, to integrate. In this way, calmness grows like a tree slowly, silently, with roots deepening unseen. Others may not notice, but one day, when the storm rages and you stand unshaken, they will see and they will wonder at the mystery of your strength. So I say to you now to remain calm. No matter what others do is not an achievement, but a transformation. It is the fruit of individuation, the gift of the self. It comes not by effort alone, but by surrender. Surrender to the depths of your own soul. Surrender to the archetypes that shape you. Surrender to the mystery that holds all things. You do not create calmness, you uncover it. It was always there, like the still sea beneath the waves, waiting for you to descend. When you walk from here into the world, remember this: every insult, every betrayal, every judgment you face is also a mirror. A symbol, a guide. You can react blindly and the storm will consume you. Or you can pause, look inward and ask, what does this reveal? What archetype speaks here? What part of me must awaken? If you do this, calmness will not be far, for you will no longer be trapped by the actions of others. You will live from the self, and the self is eternal. This is why the sages, the mystics, the truly individuated ones appear serene even in chaos. It is not because the world is kind to them, it rarely is. It is because they have discovered the secret. The world is the outer image of the inner process. And if one lives from the center, nothing external can destroy the calm of the soul. This calmness is your inheritance, if you dare to walk the path. And so I leave you with this: do not strive anxiously to be calm. Strive to be whole. Strive to know yourself, to embrace your shadow, to integrate your opposites, to listen to your dreams, to follow the symbols of your soul. Calmness will follow as surely as dawn follows the night. It will come not as a fragile state to be protected, but as a living presence, the voice of the self speaking through you. Then, no matter what others do, whether they praise or condemn, love or betray, you will remain rooted, unshaken, calm in the deepest sense. For you will know that nothing external can touch the eternal self. And in that knowing, you will be free.